Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to another video. This is another paid request, this time for Nate. Thank you for that, and for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reactions, reviews, re-reviews, commentaries, rankings, lists, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Idea, this is for Nate, and he wanted me to talk about the 1985 sequel, The Jewel of the Nile. Now, it's a sequel to Romancing the Stone, which came out just a year before. And Romancing the Stone was a film no one really thought would do anything. It's why Sylvester Stallone passed on the lead. And they went on to do Rhinestone, which Stallone has said what is one of his biggest regrets. Just like he said no to Seven. And might have been the Morgan Freeman role, but he said no. Again, one of his big regrets. So yeah, Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, Danny DeVito, Robert Zemeckis directing. And Robert Zemeckis at that point was not a big director. I mean, Zemeckis had done films like Used Cars and they bombed. So this is a film no one expected anything about him. It was such a surprise hit. And they fast-tracked a sequel to come out a year later. And then Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner had a contractual obligation to come back. In fact, Kathleen Turner said, "I don't care for the script, I don't want to do it." And the studio threatened her, "We'll sue you for $20 or so million if you don't do it." And Michael Douglas was like, "Okay, let's work on the script, blah, blah, blah." And this film did well. It made almost as much money as the first one. But they didn't make a third one. But they did get back together for The War of the Roses, which Danny DeVito actually directed, and some other stuff. I think they actually, Michael Douglas was on some show and Kathleen Turner was on there, so they worked together after this. Now, this time, Robert Zemeckis, he was doing Back to the Future, so they got Lewis Teague who did Cujo, which I enjoy, Alligator, which is a fairly underrated film, glad it finally got a Blu-ray release. He also did Navy SEALs, he did Cat's Eye, underrated anthology film. He did this, and the film is kind of how I feel about the first one. And here's the thing. These are films, both Romancing and Jewel of the Nile, I'm kind of on. To be honest, I mean, okay. I try to leave the film going, okay, it's alright. I don't love them. I would not say I'm a massive fan of them. I would not put them high on my list of adventure movies. I would actually say I like Firewalker a lot more, with Chuck Norris and Louis Gossett Jr. That's just me. Teen Solomon's Mines with Richard Chamberlain I would put above these films. Of course, the Indiana Jones films, which I know they're doing part 5, even though it's not needed. There's just other adventure films I would put above. Even a film like The Goonies, which came out the same year. Even The Rundown. In a way, yeah, that's an adventure movie. With The Rock and Sean William Scott. It's just what makes the films work okay is Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner do have good chemistry, just like they did in the first film. Danny DeVito, he may have similar running. It felt like he was in this film more. I don't say maybe he has similar running time, but it did feel like he was in this flick a bit more. He felt a bit more, I don't want to say important to the plot, but he felt, I thought he fit better here than in the first one. I did not know this was the film that had that song by Billy Ocean. When the going is tough, the tough get going. Ba-na-na-na-na. I'm like, oh, it came from this movie. I didn't know that. I mean, maybe that song was on before, but this is a song that definitely got famous because of this movie. But I don't know, they're not, for adventure films, they're not really action-packed. I mean, there's one really good scene in this movie, which I highly enjoy, with a fighter jet. It never flies, but it stays on the ground, is going through this whole town. And Michael Douglas, oh, it is like Space Invaders, and he's shooting up buildings, blowing stuff up. and he's just driving the thing throughout town. That's a fun scene. I think that's the best scene in the movie. And then other than a little train scene later, a little bit at the end, it's just not really much spectacular action for an adventure movie. And then the musical score was okay. Danny DeVito, it's fine to see him in it. The bad guy, kind of like the bad guy in this first film, I'm like, I'm not going to remember much of the bad guy by next week. The title, there's a nice take on the title, The Jewel of the Nile, when you find out what the jewel really is. The plot, it's sometime later. The happy ending has been fulfilled. It starts off with a dream fantasy, just like the first one did, where, in this case, there's pirates. And she wakes up, and now Kathleen Turner is tired of the romance. And that's kind of what makes me mad about her character. Not the actress, but the character. I'm like, well, wait a minute. This whole first movie was bitching about wanting romance, wanting the happy ending, this and that. She finally gets it with Michael Douglas. They're on the boat. They got money. They could go anywhere they want. And now she's tired of it? Boo fucking who. I wish I had your problem. I wish I could have your sob story. Can we trade places, Kathleen Turner? And I don't blame Michael Douglas going, what the fuck? Like, really? What the fuck? Huh? But now she wants to do a story that's important. Even though it seemed like all she was doing was these romance novels, now she wants us to do a story that's important. In order for the plot to keep going. So he takes his job, this job where she's going to go with this guy who's going to be the new emperor of the Nile. Meanwhile, Michael Douglas is at the boat. Dan DeVito is back because he wants revenge on Michael Douglas for what happened in the first movie. Also, this other guy comes in saying, hey, this bad guy named Omar, no, not Omar Sharif, he blew up Michael Douglas' boat. He's a villain. I did like the idea that the bad guy's going to use elements of a rock concert, like behind the scenes things that you do with a rock concert to mimic the idea of being this godlike figure to make the public of the Nile believe that he's this next coming of godliness and listen to what I say. That was kind of interesting. They go to Africa. Meanwhile, Kathleen Turner, she's with the bad guy, then realizes he is the bad guy. Realizes that the Jewel of the Nile, spoiler alert, spoilers, is this guy who the rebels need because, no, this is the guy who will and shall be and should be the new emperor. He's the Jewel of the Nile. He's the guy, and he's a prisoner, and she tries to help him get out. Meanwhile, Dan DeVito and Michael Douglas go to Africa, and they get involved in these parties. And once in a while, there's a line of dialogue that makes me chuckle, like Michael Douglas he's talking to Dan DeVito, and he goes, I'm going to put you up a camel's ass for openers. That's what I'm going to do. When DeVito keeps going, well, what are we going to do next? Now, of course, DeVito and Douglas are not together too long because he's trying to save her, but she's escaping, so neither really save the other. Those two in the Jewel run off while Dan DeVito's messing around over here. And that's where you get the fighter jet, and they're going through the market, and Michael Douglas is like, this is like Space Invaders. Of course, when I think of well, not really a jet, but think of the plane scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark. But I mean, that's not the same as this. This did something different. And I like... Nowadays, they wouldn't do just... Unless it was Tom Cruise. But they wouldn't do just a real jet just driving around the city, real stuff blow up. It'd be a bunch of CG enhancements, all sorts of stuff, green screen computers. So that's what I mean. Stuff like this, it's fun to watch because you can't get more real than real. And it's a fun bit. To me, it's the best bit of the movie. And after that, I think it dragged quite a bit. And after that, I don't think it was eventful at all, in my opinion. Because getting more in spoilers, I never used to do the spoiler thing, but I try to do that in case, people, just in case you don't want to hear about it more. After that fighter jet scene, they're trapped. Danny DeVito's with the rebels. A little bit of friction between them. Douglas and, who is it? Kathleen Turner and the Jewel, they go around the desert. They do find this tribe. You did a decent little fun scene. This is probably the second best bit in the movie where the tribe goes, my son wants to take this woman as a bride. Douglas, nah, this girl's with me. Okay, well, you gotta fight the son in order to get her hand. Okay, I'll do that. And then he turns around and realizes that it's a much taller guy than he thought. So the jewel now causes distraction. Michael Douglas is able to cheat his way into knocking the guy out. It's like, yeah, run. That's a fun little bit. And then there's a celebration. Douglas and Kathleen Turner rekindle their romance. Yeah, there's a little bit with a train. Real actual train, to be fair. But I mean, whether it be... I mean, there's other movies that you just... with trains. Under Siege 2, for crying out loud. James Bond films, that train scenes have been more exciting than this. This was alright at best. You ever seen that kind of comes off of like a cartoon? Looney Tunes, where DeVito's trying to get on the train and he hits this... When it's going in a tunnel, on the side, he hits the side. And he's like this. Is that like a cartoon character? I thought that was a bit too goofy. A bit too silly. Then they're caught. Danny DeVito arrives. He accidentally frees them. The bad guy's ready to do his rally, his presentation. Douglas and Kathleen Turner wrecked it. And I don't know, the ending just came off as not that exciting. Just wasn't that thrilling. It was, okay, here's a bunch of crowd, kind of find each other, but it's... I don't know either of them really that well, so I didn't care. Kathleen Turner's pretty much just running away. And then the bad guy tries to get her. Michael Douglas, Danny DeVito helps with a crane, and Douglas gets on, and he does a swing to kick the bad guy off to his death. Just wasn't really that exciting, that thrilling a finale. And that's kind of this movie where, I don't know, it just comes off as meh. Comes off as ho-hum. And you think of just other adventure... I mean, you think of the finale, The Rundown, with The Rock. That's just really crazy, cool action and stunt work. They went all out. Or even, a film like Firewalk, or at least you got Chuck Norris doing some martial arts. Okay, Raiders of the Lost Ark, there's more of a spectacle. Granted, the budget. This, it just... I kind of honestly put on the level of Alan Quartermain in The Lost City of Gold. People get mad at me for that, but I put this and Romance the Storm kind of on the same level as that. It's kind of meh for adventure films. Again, I know these are some people's favorite movies, but I like Michael Douglas. Love him Falling Down, The Game. Even films like Disclosure I liked, and Wall Street I'm not a fan of, but I liked his performance. It's just I'm not into the stock market, that whole... I know there's more to it than that. It's just the story didn't appeal to me as much as others. But I do like Michael Douglas's acting. My favorite is, I would say, is The Game. Falling Down is close. Black Rain is a great one. He does a good job here. Kathleen Turner, she hasn't aged the best. Was she in Dumb and Dumber 2? Last movie I saw her in? I always remember her as the voice of Jessica Rabbit, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Dan DeVito, always nice to see him in there. At least his character felt a bit more... I liked his character in this more. They gave him the teeniest of an arc, because he becomes a good guy at the end. He even gets a little reward for it. So, at least there's a little arc. I don't mind the song at the end. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. The landscape, I mean, the landscape is not as fulfilling as the jungle and Romancing the Stone. Because it's just kind of hot, plain desert. So there's not a lot of lush landscape to look at. But I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's okay. It's alright. I don't even know if I would say, do I like this more or less than Romancing the Stone? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I like this a little bit more than the first one, only because that fighter jet scene really stuck out. Like, the action scenes in Romancing the Stone don't really stick out for me. Not to say they're bad. It's just, of the two films, I think the fighter jet scene is the best action bit in the movie. And again, I mentioned DeVito, I liked him more in this. So I guess I would put this above Romancing the Stone. But like I said, there's just other adventure films. Okay, if I looked at this book, and I'm thinking, I think there's an adventure section. Could be wrong. No, it's just an action section. I thought there was adventure. I guess not. Alright. If you want to look at this book, which I've had for the longest time. Well, actually, I did have it for the longest time. Then I got rid of it, but I was thankfully able to find it. It's on a side. This is a book I had when I had the store called On Q, where I lived at in Iowa, and then sadly I got rid of it, but thankfully I was able to find it. It's a film guide, but the cool thing is that they actually show the pictures. Granted, it's in black and white, but they show the pictures of the VHS, which I always thought was cool. And then this person's review of the film. It's cool to just flip through and look at, but I thought there was an adventure section, but no, just an action. Yeah, like the new releases were Hook. Oh no, that's fantasy. The new releases were My Life, My Girl, Unlawful Entry, Jurassic Park, Best of the Best 2, and so forth. Cliffhanger, straightforward film with some spectacular stunts. I agree. Yeah, go watch Cliffhanger instead. If people like the film, that's cool. It's just, I'm pretty indifferent on it. It's okay. That's the best I could give you. So, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.